Hi everyone, it's Saoirse, and today we're going to talk about God Emperor of Dune by Frank Herbert. This is the fourth book in the Dune series, and I was reading that the first three should be seen as a trilogy, and then this one is a bridge to the next trilogy, but he only got to finish the fifth and sixth books before he passed away, so there is no seventh, unless you count all the ones that his son wrote, which is a whole other shenanigan that I haven't gotten into. This one was published in 1981, and if you thought that the second book was weird and the third book was really weird, this starts out with a worm person and then continues to just be about his philosophical thoughts. So I really liked it, and I think it's a polarizing one in the series because a lot of people seem to say it's their favorite or they absolutely despised it. There will be some spoilers in this video toward the end. I'm going to read you the back here, and then let's dive into this bizarre installment in the Dune universe. Millennia have passed on Arrakis, and the once desert planet is green with life. Leto Atreides, the son of the world's savior, the Emperor Paul Muad'Dib, is still alive but far from human. To preserve humanity's future, he sacrificed his own by merging with a sandworm, granting him near immortality as God Emperor of Dune for the past 3,500 years. Leto's rule is not a benevolent one. His transformation has made not only his appearance, but his morality inhuman. A rebellion led by Siona, a member of the Atreides family, has risen to oppose the despot's rule, but Siona is unaware that Leto's vision of a golden path for humanity requires her to fulfill a destiny she never wanted or could possibly conceive. So if you're reading this series, just a tip, don't ever read the back of the next book unless you want spoilers, because if I had read that before finishing Children of Dune, I would have been like, excuse me, 3,500 years later. So what I try to tell people without spoiling everything, people who have just read the first book or just seen the movie, if you're really attached to some of these characters, maybe don't be so attached, because the series covers so many thousands of years that you're not likely to see the same people the whole time. But yes, so we open up with this worm human hybrid that Leto has become. In the end of Children of Dune, he merged himself with sand trout, like sandworm babies, and it became a sort of armor on him. And now, 3,000 years later, he's pretty much all worm, except for his head, and he has little hands, and he's got these like vestigial feet that are they're useless little flippers, he calls them. So it's a very upsetting visual, and like that visual is in your head the whole time you're reading this book, which is fun. So in here we get a lot of themes. We get themes of rebellion, philosophy, love. We get the idea of a changing self, with Leto having to grapple with the fact that his human form and his humanity in general is just going away. Give me here. We get the theme of protecting humanity by controlling it and being a tyrant, which is something that Paul saw in his prescience, and his son Leto has carried on this idea of a golden path, the way that humanity can survive extinction. Come here. Come here. Oh, I can't even see you. Say hi. Say hi. Oh, he's a big boy. Okay. So, yes, Leto does call himself a predator. He knows that what he's doing is not so good. But like Paul, he feels he has no choice because he's seen this path, and it's the only way that that humans can survive. And so it's this twisted thing where he's like, I'm doing this for you, but it's really terrible and you hate it, and I'm being so selfless by doing this thing that I also don't like. You think I want to be a giant sandworm? Um, it's wild, to say the least. So let's look at some of the things we can pull out here and pick apart. Here Leto is thinking, and he thinks, fool, all rebellions are ordinary and an ultimate bore. They are copied out of the same pattern, one much like another. The driving force is adrenaline addiction and the desire to gain personal power. All rebels are closet aristocrats. That's why I can convert them so easily. And then he says, radicals crop up in every generation, and you must not try to prevent this. That's what he means by give up the initiative. He wants to crush them, suppress them, control them, prevent them. He is living proof that there is little difference between the police mind and the military mind. He says a lot of things, and you don't... it's not always clear if he is okay with his own thinking, or if he's making fun of himself, or if he's making fun of other people. He's basically seen it all because he's been here for thousands of years, and he's starting to lose it a bit because he's very bored, and you can't really trust a ruler like that. First of all, can you trust a giant sandworm ruler who's been ruling for thousands of years and is okay with people calling him a god? No, probably shouldn't trust that. But then somebody who's been alive so long is gonna want to meddle with human affairs in a way that entertains him, and things get sticky there. He also, you want to believe that he has these ideas that are going to, in the end, be good for everybody, and that he isn't just a crazed, manipulative, evil tyrant, but he does things that are so against his. He'll be philosophizing. Is that a word? I don't know. Talking about philosophy for pages and pages, but then at the same time, he's got weird things like he will not give up Duncan Idaho. So if you missed Duncan Idaho, he's always coming back as a Gola, as a reanimated flesh, and they give him his memories back. So for thousands of years, Leto has been going through a whole succession of Duncan Idahos because he needs his buddy around. That's his dude. And it's so questionable if that is that any kind of a tactic in his military exploits, or does he just want his friend around, and why is he so mean to him? It's a lot, but I don't know why these books, as crazy as they get, they still feel so readable, and you can just kind of go through them pretty quickly, because most of this was dialogue. It's just Leto having conversations with various people. I guess that's why a lot of people don't like this one, because it's not as much action, but I enjoy it for that reason. So the next thing, a look at manipulating history. So he's talking about his army. The haze of nostalgia covers their days among their sisters, making those days into something different than they were. That's the way today changes history. All contemporaries do not inhabit the same time. The past is always changing, but few realize it. So he admits that he manipulates things. He manipulates people's memory, their conception of the past, of human history. And that is such a dangerous thing to do, to tell anything other than the truth. Especially when you've been around for millennia and people know that, and therefore a lot of them trust you because you've seen everything. So why shouldn't they believe your version of history if you're the only one who was there? Yeah, it's a dangerous thing. And I'm thinking like, oh, what if this happens? What if we have, and then I remember, oh, we're not going to have a 3,000-year-old worm person as a ruler. But then, what if we do? Because I guess nothing's impossible. This line here, Leto thinks, this is a flickering nuisance among the short-lived and the short-thoughted. So, rulers shouldn't have power for this long, because, so even if it's, if we had presidents for 20 years instead of 4 years, it's too long. And there are positions of power here in the States, and I don't know about other people's governments. I'm not into government. It's very confusing and upsetting, but there are a lot of positions of power that last for years and years and years. And when you are in power for that long, and you're seeing things change from a different perspective than the people that you're ruling, it's a danger that you might not care about things the same way that they do, because they see time differently. And this is obviously blown up into, fantasy land where he's thousands of years old. So to him, being near immortal, things that are only going to affect one person's or one generation's lifetime, they're not very interesting to him. And when you can brush aside a whole generation because you're going to outlive it, or you're going to outrule it, then you're not getting the point of, he talks about saving humanity, but it sounds like he's kind of falling down on the job. Because you can't just sweep things under the rug or brush them off because you're not going to be there. Or no, because you are going to be there, and their problem will go away eventually, and it's only one little blip in your long life. Anyway. Okay. This book and Frank Herbert seems to have really weird ideas about women and about homosexuality. So, tell me what you think about this. Leto has an all-female army. Loyalty in a male army fastens onto the army itself rather than onto the civilization which fosters the army. Loyalty in a female army fastens onto the leader. So at first, when you hear he's got an all-female army, you want to be like, oh, girl power, they're so strong. But it is such a manipulative reason why he does that. It says right there, loyalty in a female army fastens onto the leader. So, because men can't be trusted to not have infighting and, becoming obsessed with themselves as a unit, he chooses women instead who will basically worship him. And this is such a, black and white, stereotypical view of gender and, roles of men and women. Would all women really behave this way? No, not all women would worship him. And a lot of men would. So then, okay, the bit about homosexuality, it's so weird and feels very out of left field. But Duncan keeps saying all these homophobic things. And then Moneo, who is Leto's right-hand man, he says, I will tell you this only once. Homosexuals have been among the best warriors in our history, the berserkers of last resort. They were among our best priests and priestesses. Celibacy was no accident in religions. It is also no accident that adolescents make the best soldiers. What is going on here? I really don't know the point that he's trying to make and what purpose this serves in this book. Is this just outdated thinking? What was he getting at here? I don't know. But it really stood out as just like not working with the rest of the book. And I don't know. It's like Duncan's being homophobic and Moneo is saying stop being homophobic. Like, so is that good? But then he says this weird stuff about celibacy and like gay people are celibate. No. I don't like it, and I can't figure out what it's doing in here. So if anyone knows, let me know. So yeah, I'm not gonna pull out any more quotes. There's just a whole lot of Leto sitting in his royal cart with his big warm body. A lot of weird imagery that is kind of fun. But him just sitting there having these conversations about the golden path. And I find that I just don't really know what it all means, but I want to keep reading it. I don't know if that reaction is normal. I wish I understood more of what he's doing here, but at least I'm enjoying it. So there's this whole other storyline in this book with a woman called Hui Nori, and she's like created to manipulate Leto by, I think it's the Ixians, and it works. He falls in love with her. They get engaged. And this whole love storyline is also like, whoa, where did this come from? And it's disturbing, but at the same time, I was like, oh, can't they just have some happiness together? You know, they talk a lot about how they can't have sex, and it's just a lot for like a series that I don't know why there's so much about sex in it, but yeah, I'm speechless. I'm speechless. I would love to know what other people thought about this relationship that he has. And the thing is, I keep finding that not a lot of people continued to read the books after the first one, so I've got like no one to talk to about it. So I'm just out here by myself, like, what on earth did I just read? And I can't bounce these ideas off anyone. So, spoiler, in the end of the book, Leto gets assassinated, and along with his future bride. And then Duncan and Siona are still there, and we're left to wonder, are they going to carry out some kind of new government plan? You know, what are they going to do now when Leto's army will probably be very furious at them for assassinating him? I don't know. And I'm looking forward to the next book. I read the back of it, so I know we're skipping some more time. Yeah. I gotta go sit and think quietly for a while. Let me know your thoughts on this book, or if you even bothered to get this far in the series. And don't put any spoilers about the next two books. I went out and got them, so I'm gonna dive in when I feel ready. These books, I feel like you gotta take a break in between because they're so long and packed with nonsense. Nonsense in a good way, you know what I mean? I really like them. I just don't know what the heck is going on. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time. Happy reading.